seized him firmly by the arm, while her eyes, blazing with fury, were fixed upon his face. "Do not distress yourself, Aglaya Ivanovitch," he answered calmly. "Your mother knows that one cannot strike a dying man. I am ready to explain why I was laughing. I shall be delighted if you will let me." A violent fit of coughing, which lasted a full minute, prevented him from finishing his sentence. "He is dying, yet he will not stop holding forth!" cried Lizabetha Prokofievna. She loosed her hold on his arm, almost terrified, as she saw him wiping the blood from his lips. "Why do you talk? You ought to go home to bed." "So I will," he whispered hoarsely. "As soon as I get home I will go to bed at once. And I know I shall be dead in a fortnight. Bodkin told me himself last week. That is why I should like to say a few farewell words, if you will let me." "But you must be mad! It is ridiculous! You should take care of yourself. What is the use of holding a conversation now? Go home to bed, do!" cried Mrs. Epanchin in horror. "When I do go to bed I shall never get up again," said Hippolyte with a smile. "I meant to take to my bed yesterday, and stay there till I died; but as my legs can still carry me, I put it off for 2 days, so as to come here with them today. But I am very tired." "Oh, sit down, sit down! Why are you standing?" Lizabetha Prokofievna placed a chair for him with her own hands. "Thank you," he said gently. "Sit opposite to me and let us talk. We must have a talk now, Lizabetha Prokofievna. I am very anxious for it." He smiled at her once more. "Remember that today, for the last time, I am out in the air, and in the company of my fellow men, and that in a fortnight I shall certainly be no longer in this world. So, in a way, this is my farewell to nature and to men. I am not very sentimental, but do you know, I am quite glad that all this has happened at Pavlofsk, where at least one can see a green tree." "But why talk now?" replied Lizabetha Prokofievna, more and more alarmed. "You are quite feverish. Just now you would not stop shouting, and now you can hardly breathe. You are gasping. I shall have time to rest. Why will you not grant my last wish? Do you know, Lizabetha Prokofievna, that I have dreamed of meeting you for a long while? I had often heard of you from Colia. He is almost the only person who still comes to see me. You are an original and eccentric woman. I have seen that for myself. Do you know, I have even been rather fond of you." "Good heavens! And I very nearly struck him." "You were prevented by Aglaya Ivanovna. I think I am not mistaken. That is your daughter, Aglaya Ivanovna. She is so beautiful that I recognized her directly, although I had never seen her before. Let me at least look on beauty for the last time in my life," he said with a wry smile. "You are here with the prince and your husband, and a large company. Why should you refuse to gratify my last wish?" "Give me a chair," cried Lizabetha Prokofievna, but she seized one for herself, and sat down opposite to Hippolyte. "Colia, you must go home with him," she commanded, "and tomorrow I will come myself." "Will you let me ask the prince for a cup of tea? I am exhausted. Do you know what you might do, Lizabetha Prokofievna? I think you wanted to take the prince home with you for tea. Stay here, and let us spend the evening together. I am sure the prince will give us all some tea. Forgive me for being so free and easy, but I know you are kind, and the prince is kind too. In fact, we are all good-natured people. It is really quite comical." The prince bestirred himself to give orders. Lebedeff hurried out, followed by Vera. "It is quite true," said Mrs. Epanchin decisively. "Talk, but not too loud, and don't excite yourself. You have made me very sorry for you. Prince, you don't deserve that I should stay and have tea with you, yet I will, all the same, but I won't apologize. I apologize to nobody, nobody. It is absurd. However, forgive me, prince, if I blew you up. That is, if you like, of course. But please don't let me keep anyone," she said suddenly to her husband and daughters, in a tone of resentment, as though they had grievously offended her. "I can come home alone quite well." But they did not let her finish, and gathered round her eagerly. The prince immediately invited everyone to stay for tea, and apologized for not having thought of it before. The general murmured a few polite words, and asked Lizabetha Prokofievna if she did not feel cold on the terrace. He very nearly asked Hippolyte how long he had been at the university, but stopped himself in time. Evgenie Pavlovitch and Prince S. suddenly grew extremely gay and amiable. Adelaida and Alexandra had not recovered from their surprise, but it was now mingled with satisfaction. In short, everyone seemed very much relieved that Lizabetha Prokofievna had got over her paroxysm. Aglaya alone still frowned and sat apart in silence. All the other guests stayed on as well. No one wanted to go, not even General Ivolgin. But Lebedeff said something to him in passing which did not seem to please him, for he immediately went and sulked in a corner. The prince took care to offer tea to Burdovsky and his friends, as well as the rest. The invitation made them rather uncomfortable. They muttered that they would wait for Hippolyte, and went and sat by themselves in a distant corner of the veranda. Tea was served at once. Lebedeff had no doubt ordered it for himself and his family before the others arrived. It was striking 11. End of Part 2, Chapter 9. Recording by Martin Geeson in Hazelmere, Surrey.